President, please be seated. The court is now in session, and I give the floor to Judge Lavence to put question to the witness. You may proceed.
Merci, Monsieur.
Thank you, Mr. President. This morning we stopped when I was putting questions to you about Lakdari Nunchea's nieces. If I understood properly what you told me that Lakdara Elias Tan had survived. Did I understand you properly? And can you tell us why she was not executed? Was this because Nunchea had ordered that, or was it because you considered that she could be useful as a doctor?
Witness, large Dara survived, but not up to 1980s. She died on the way she fled. So Raj Dara survived the regime after 1979, but did not live through the period 1980s. She died while fleeing. I used her for medical treatment together with Date and Moon. So there were no instructions from Uncle Nguyen. That is why there was one time I made a speech about ownership, and Mom Nai made note of that. For example, ownership had something to do the relation with the family, and I recall that you, Your Honor, asked me about the incident, and Mom Nai made note about Sad, the Comrade Sad, not Thorn. And I do not know in detail about the individuals I have just discussed.
No.
However, do you know if her sister Lakvari, alias Nan, and their husbands were killed? And did they have children? And were the children also executed?
The two siblings, Comrade Nan and Thorn, were pregnant, and they were smashed by S-21, and Nan was pregnant at a time while she was smashed, and Thorn and another woman had a child with her.
And were the husbands also executed?
Sad and another individual died already.
Bien.
Fine. Do you remember if Nunchea spoke to you about the existence of traitors in the family? Did he speak, for example, about his uncles? His uncle by the name of Siu Eng.
Không chung nghiệp vào sao?
Witness, Your Honor, Nun Jie never discussed the Siu Pain with me, about an individual named Siu Pain with me, not at all.
Est-ce que
Were the arrests of Lak Dara and Lak Vari connected to an attempt to poison the leaders of Democratic Kampuchea?
Không mình chăm thì mình chăm sao?
I do not recall that, Your Honor.
Fine. Now, let's move on to another topic regarding S21's operations and staff. And I would like to provide a document to, which is document E3/1848. 1848, that is. Khmer ERN 00 16 24 76 English 00 19 3064 French 00 22 90 39. And can we please display this document on the screen as well?
ce document
This document is titled The Number of Units to Feed Who Are Stationed in the Phnom Penh Area for March 1977. And this document is dated 7 April 1977. And there is a list of all of the divisions and regiments. And there are two lines I'd like to focus on, lines 10 and line 13. Line 10 is entitled S21 Office, and we see below in the total number column a figure of 2,327. And below, and this is separated, we have line 13, which is entitled The Number of People at S21 to Feed. And here there is a figure of 1,300. So, did you ever see this document, first of all? Can you explain to us what these figures represent?
Your Honor, in the previous proceedings, there was a better list of S21, and I cannot make a distinction between this document and the previous document. And concerning the forces who went to collect the rice, included staff members from S21 and those from the field or from Srai. Then the figure here is it's not 2,000 but 600 to my reading. I think it is 600. Oh no, 2,317 people or prisoners. So I cannot explain you on the figure.
Well, regarding the French version of this document, at line 10, can you see line 10? On line 10, it is written down S21 office. And here I see a total number of 2,327 people. So is that the same thing that you see in your document?
The same, Your Honor.
Fine. Now on line 13, in French it is written the number of people at S21 to feed, 1,300. So there are two different kinds of numbers for S21. So can you provide some clarification on this? Do you know what these figures correspond to? Given that it is clear when we read this document that these are distinct figures because there is a first addition for the 12 first units, and below that the staff of people to feed at S21 was added, and we have a general total following that. So it is clear for me that there are two different kinds of figures involved here. And can you provide some clarification on that?
I can understand your statement, Your Honor. And I could not read clearly line number 10, but now I can figure out what it is. But still, I cannot tell you whether the number in line 10 is the total number or together with the prisoners. For line 13, it is about the people to feed at S21. And I believe the figures 1,300 refers to the combatants and cadres. And as for prisoners who were at field or Srai, consisted around 1,467. This is all I can explain the figures to you.
So according to you, line 13 corresponds to the number of prisoners and to the staff working at S21 in Phnom Penh at the Ponyayat High School site. And line 10 maybe corresponds to the members of S24, that is to say those who are working in the rice fields.
Let me clarify the matter once again. line 10, to my understanding, I would like to shed light on the figure 2,760 included the staff members both at Phnom Penh and at the field of strike. And line 13, it states the people to feed at S21 consists of 1,300. So I can tell you that the staff members both at the S21 and from the field together is 1,300.
You seem to be inverting lines 10 and 13. Line 13 is the line with the figure of 1,300. Line 10 lists a figure of 2,327. So, did you maybe invert line 10 and line 13?
អត់ទេ
I am not confused. One is the total number of prisoners together with the staff members, and I believe the the prisoners to be fed at the time were more than the staff members. So again, the total number of prisoners together with the staff members is 2,767. And as I told you, there is another list shown to me during the proceedings in case 001. The list make clear distinction between the number of prisoners and staff members. So I am a little bit confused with the figures shown in this list.
Fine, we'll get back to this when we check to see if there are other lists on the case file in that regard. Now, I would like to move on to another document. Counsel Koppe, I think you will have the time to put questions to the witness there, so I'd like to continue with my examination. Thank you. I would like now to look at document E3/8386. So can we please provide this document to the witness? This document falls under the following ERNs. In Khmer 000 26 37 to 40, English 00 52 16 31 to 34, French 00 53 27 33 to 36. Have you already seen this document, witness?
Thank you, Your Honor. This document was shown to me during the investigation stages and also in the proceedings of case 001. This is what I can tell you. Let me add, every time the document shown to me, I confirmed that I recognize this document, and this document belongs to S21.
Êtes-vous
Are you the author of this circular?
អរគុណ
Ho was the one who wrote this circular. It was not me, Ho, in fact.
Bien.
Fine. I will get back to the circular later on, but what I would like to focus on for the moment is the last page of this document, because on the last page of this document we see figures and indications regarding the number of people. Do you know who wrote this page?
I do not know who wrote it. And if I say it is horse writing, I think it's not. But to my observation, this list represents the situation at S21 about the number of guards within S21 and number of staff from messenger unit, and also it's consistent with the number in relation to child unit. However, as I said, I cannot tell you who wrote this last page of the document. And as for whether the figure is accurate based on the numbers of staff members at S21 at the time, I cannot tell you whether it reflects the exact number of staff members at S21.
What I read here is that that the numbers are much lower than what is listed in the previous document. When we look, for example, at the security unit staff, we have 143 people. For the economic unit, 46 people. For the messengers, 62 people. For the children's unit, we have 76 people. So, basically speaking, this amounts to a total of about 340 people. So does this seem to reflect the reality in terms of the number of people at S21? Or do you remember that or not?
Thank you, Your Honor. Let me emphasize that S21 includes Phnom Penh and also Srai, the field. So S21 includes Phnom Penh and the field, not 23 or 24 as others said. And this list, the number, represents the combatants or cadres within Phnom Penh. That's why you could see the number is lower than the previous document. The number of staff members of Phnom Penh amounts to more than 300 in total. $366. What I can read from the document.
Bien. Donc,
so, let me specify again that this document is not dated. And now I would like to look at the circular itself. So you said that the circular had been written or drafted by Hoare. And in particular, there is I would like to look at point 6, which concerns the surveillance of the enemies. But generally speaking, in the circular, people are described as enemies and never as prisoners. So can you confirm that at S21, prisoners were usually called enemies, and that's how they were called, enemies, instead of prisoners?
The word enemy was widely used, and that word refers to prisoners who were arrested, who had been arrested and had to be smashed. So those who entered S21 never returned back home. They were enemies.
I'm going to read out point 6 in a circular. If the enemies attempt to break the locks, on the doors, if they attempt to commit suicide by hanging themselves, or to slit their wrists, or to cut their throats, or to pretend to swallow screws, then it will be necessary to immediately take emergency measures. So, was the fear of seeing prisoners escape or of seeing prisoners commit suicide, was this a major concern at S21?
That was the main concern. Let me clarify that at S21 there was a case that one prisoner could make an escape at the time. Mom Nai, Ho and Nai had gone to the rural area to ask for hens and chicken, and an individual from Division 70 could make an escape back to his own division. And after that, the Division 70 sent back that individual back to S21 through General Staff. So we were warned from that time onwards not to go out altogether. There should be one person on standby. This is one incident. There was another case. Aja Kong took the gun and shot. And another case was about the event that Rương took M16 and shot the guard through that. And Susopan, the prisoner, the deputy, Division 170, while he was in detention, he swallowed a screw from the window, and he got abdominal pain at the time, so I called in a doctor or medic to conduct the surgery to get the screw out. Su Qing, who was the medical doctor of a heart disease, was detained at S21, and that female prisoner Qing got the razor and cut open her skin. She was pregnant at the time. So we were warned after the incidents happened, and this is why I said it was the main concern at S21.
Alors, nous avons au dossier...
We have on record indeed a number of documents referring to suicides or attempted suicides. I would like to point out, for instance, that in document E3/3181, I have only the English ERN, and that is 00728980. And this document refers to a female detainee called Pen Kim from Regiment 152 who committed suicide by hanging herself. Were there several cases of suicides?
If there was a case of a suicide, then a report had to be made to me because that is strange. Personally, I never heard of any suicide committed at S21 besides the incident of swallowing a screw and another incident of cutting open their own abdomen. My main concern was to prevent any important enemy from being killed and cut off the confession. And I did not know about the incident involving this individual from 152.
Vous parlez des prisonniers.
You are referring to important prisoners, and it was absolutely necessary to prevent them from committing suicide. Is that a concern you had as regards Khoi Thuon?
Et est-ce qu'il y a des mesures particulières?
And were any specific steps taken in that regard?
Khoi Thuon was a special person, and I was the one who was in charge of S21, and I personally interrogated him. I placed him on the 4th floor of a house, which was located to the south of Punyaya, the colleague. And that was also part of the detention facility of S21. He was sitting and sleeping on that rattan bed, and I placed 2 special guards to watch over him. And there was also I also placed a desk phone there. There were only 3 sets at S21. One was with the hall, one was at my house, and one was placed at that special room. And I strictly warned the 2 guards not to allow him to commit any suicide. So when he tore pieces of papers, broke off his glasses, or broke off the chair, I was informed of the incident. And I told the guards to just remain there and don't do anything. And then I would go there in half an hour or so. When I saw him, I just simply smiled at him. But I constantly think of way to prevent him from committing suicide. Khoi Thuon was the only person that I interrogated in my capacity as the chairperson, and I took what it needed in order to prevent his confession being cut off.
Donc, si je comprends bien,
So if I understand correctly, there were 2 guards permanently monitoring Koi Tuon to make sure he didn't commit suicide. Is that correct? And if it is, can you tell us whether, furthermore, Koi Tuon was handcuffed and shackled to prevent him from hurting himself?
The photo that I was given by Your Honor showed that. Maybe it was the co-prosecutor who showed me that photo. Koi Tuon was placed on a rattan bed, and his ankle was chained to the bed, and that was also meant to prevent any suicide attempt. And the two guards were not ordinary guards; they were special guards that I placed them there.
Est-ce qu'il y avait des raisons particulières?
Were there any particular reasons why you feared that Koi Tuon risked committing suicide?
Koi Tuon was a member of the Central Committee, and he was the first person of that capacity to arrive at S21. For that reason, it was imperative to keep him alive in order to obtain his confession, and I would resort to all kinds of measures in order to do that.
C'était une propre initiative de votre part?
Was that an initiative on your part, or you were acting on instructions you'd received?
It was the principle not to allow a prisoner die, so the confession was cut off. However, regarding the posting of the special guards, it was my idea.
Bien, j'aimerais maintenant qu'on vous remette deux autres.
I would like you to be given two other documents, document E3/10077 and document E3/10087.
L'ERN
The ERN of the first document is 01012991. That is for the Khmer, and 01245974 in English. Let us start with document E3/177. Do you recognize the annotations on that document? Let me point out that this is a report regarding the escape of two prisoners on the 24th of November 1977. Both of them were members of Unit Number 13. That is a unit that produced palm sugar, notably Kao Sokun, alias Kun, former member of Regiment 152, and Vai, alias Bora, also an ex-member of Regiment 152. So we have here a report and a note on the screen, and it is circled. Can you tell us who were the authors of the report and the annotations.
Based on the content of this report, the three who fled did not run from Phnom Penh. In fact, they ran away from the rice field. And for the detention at the rice fields there were no proper fence, so they could actually flee. The report was made to Ho, and Ho mentioned that according to the information from the staff, Sector 25 has arrested them and had already sent men to collect them. So Ho actually sent force to get them back.
Bien. Passons maintenant.
Very well. Let us look at the other document. The ERNs are as follows. That is the ERNs for document E3/10087. The ERN in Khmer is 011 59 473. In English, 012 45 975.
Chancellor Vance, please repeat the ERN numbers of the document again, since the interpreter cannot get it.
Alors,
So that is document E3/10087. The ERN in Khmer is 011 59 473. In English, 012 45975. Can you please read out for us the title of that list?
The title of the document is List of Prisoners to be Fed.
I mean, just the title, says the judge.
voilà. En anglais, c'est un petit peu différent, puisque en anglais,
It is somewhat different in English because it is translated as
to be fattened, devant être engraissé.
list of prisoners to be fattened. Now, does this list translate the concern to make sure prisoners who are not yet given their full confessions alive? Are we talking of prisoners who suffered from malnutrition and who had to be properly fed so that their status would improve?
Based on my knowledge, the prisoners would receive proper food regimes so that they would not die and their confessions cut off. Regarding this list, I note that Kai Kum Hood's name also appears on this list, and Kai Kum Hood was rather stubborn and he did not confess. For that reason, he had to be properly fed so that his health was strong and that the interrogation could resume. However, this is my own conclusion. And in practice, I did not make such arrangement.
Monsieur le témoin,
Witness, what is relevant here is that it was necessary to draw up a specific list of prisoners who needed to be fed. Are these prisoners who may have gone on hunger strike or refused to eat? Were there any cases of prisoners who refused to eat and who had to be forcibly fed?
To my recollection, at 21, there was no prisoner who went on a hunger strike in order to make a protest. No, there was no such case. There were cases where prisoners were being interrogated, and after a while the health deteriorated, and for that the interrogation would suspend and the person would be properly fed, or sometimes medicine was used to treat them so that their health recovered and the interrogation could resume.
alors, selon vous, quel était...
Now, according to you, what was the purpose of that list? Since all the prisoners, as you say, in principle, were correctly fed, what was the purpose of this list?
This is the instruction from the person who was in charge of the guard unit to those who provided food to the prisoners, and that their food regime was different from the ordinary prisoners. That's why this list was compiled, so that these prisoners' food had to be properly rationed. However, this is based on my personal analysis, and I did not involve in this implementation of practice. I believe this is done in accordance with the principle of obtaining or of not allowing prisoners to die and prisoners' confessions cut off.
Alors, il y a deux...
We have two specific prisoners on the list. You've talked of K. Kim Hoot. That was a while ago. Is that the same prisoner who, in the course of his torture, had to eat his own excrements?
Yes, that was that prisoner that they beat him and forced him to eat his own feces, and he ate 2 spoons of feces.
Et est-ce que vous pouvez lire le nom du...
Can you read out the name of the prisoner who is number 17 at the very bottom of the list? That prisoner is described as being a leader from Yun. That is prisoner number 17. Who was that person?
Number 17 names Chao Cao Chay, a leader from June. I do not understand this, and I did not know anything about this individual. For that reason, I cannot provide you with any explanation whether this person was important or not.
Est-ce que parmi les noms des autres personnes figurent...
Among the other persons on the list, and you've said that these were important persons, or ordinary persons. I see, for instance, number 4. That is someone described as the chief of sector number 4. Then we have commune secretaries, district secretaries, deputy secretary of the Karachi Special Sector, secretary of Regiment 124, secretary of the Koklak District, deputy secretary of Muong District, secretary of Battalion 802, secretary of the Sri Ambel District, and deputy secretary of sector number 24. So it appears, nevertheless, that among these people were persons who occupied important positions.
The status of the prisoners, whether they were important or not, was based on the situation at the time. For example, the Deputy Secretary of Division 170, that person was of important status, and when he swallowed a screw, then I started staff to bring a medic from hospital P98 to operate a surgery to remove a screw. And later on, the important status of those who were secretary and deputy secretary of divisions was not that important. As the focus was on those who were linked to the northwest zone, in particular those from Sector 4 of that zone. So, for that reason, the situation depended on the role of the persons who were arrested.
Bien, maintenant je voudrais...
Very well. I would like to also talk about more specific documents, and these are documents that can be referred to as checklists concerning staffing numbers at S21. These were lists that were prepared on a daily basis, and we have two types of lists on record. I will hand you the first model, document E3/9955. Please hand the witness document E3/9955. And the ERN in Khmer is 01012143. In English, 01249-682. So we have a table which is relatively simple, and on it, at the top, is indicated
On a la mention office.
We have this label Office S21 Phnom Penh, and then we have other columns for electricity, commerce, bases, internal elements, officials, soldiers, and staff at factories, bandits, and spies. On the first table, we have a line titled Daily Update. That is the number of prisoners listed on a daily basis according to the different columns. Then we have another table detailing the number of men, women, boys and girls, and a total number is given. And we have the very last table indicating the number of entering prisoners and the number of prisoners released and the number of prisoners who died from ill health. And below that, we have an annotation concerning the list of prisoners who died from sickness. And further down, we have another column for list of prisoners brought in a specific day. This document is dated the 8th of January 1977. I believe we have on record 12 documents corresponding to this model. These are documents on record with the number E3/9955 up to E3/9967. Witness, did you ever see these kinds of documents? And if yes, can you provide us with some explanations on that?
I do not recall whether I saw the list during the proceedings in case 001. However, allow me to say this. Based on my observation, this document is consistent with the real situation at Office S21, and the handwriting was of whole.
J'ai un problème parce que je n'ai pas de traduction.
I have a problem because I'm not receiving any interpretation on the French channel. I don't know whether French speakers are facing the same problem. I haven't heard anything said by the witness.
Alors peut-être faudrait-il changer ma...
Perhaps I have to change my earsets.
Voilà. Alors je suis désolé.
I am sorry, but may I request you to repeat your answer because I didn't hear it.
Allow me to repeat my response again. I do not recall about the list, whether the list was shown to me during the proceedings in case 001. I do not recall that. However, the handwriting and the figure belongs to Comrade Ho. As for Kai Mies was one of special prisoners who was sent to S21. So I can say that the list belongs to S21, and this is a daily updated list of prisoners. The three furthest columns to the right, that is for the new coming prisoners, number of prisoners released and number of prisoners died. Was an old form, and Nat used to use this form as he used to release prisoners. He sometimes arrested prisoners arbitrarily without the knowledge of the party. For that reason, the word released is still used in the form. At S21, no one was ever released. And to my recollection, there were between 40 to 50 people that Nat arrested arbitrarily without the knowledge of the party. And that was also mentioned in the notebook. So the number could be 40, 50, or 60. That's why the word release was used in that column. And in late 1978, Brother Noon sent some people from Division 920 or Division 290. I do not recall that clearly. And there were more than 200 of them who were sent to me, and they had to be smashed. And actually, Ho typed a list that names of prisoners to be released. However, I made a correction that instead it should be list of prisoners to be removed and not released. Because I do not use the word release as once used by Nat. So prisoners had either to be removed or to be smashed. And there was no prisoner who was released at S21. Whoever was sent to S21 has to be smashed. So this is just my observation regarding that particular column which they were released. So I believe this list was the remaining form or format used by Nat.
I wasn't expecting this, but I would like to provide another document to you that I have available. This is document E3/9960, because it appears that there was a change in the titling of the different columns. So would it be possible to provide this document to the witness, please? Thank you. It appears that later on the word released disappeared from the titles of the different, or from the headings, and they indicated rather the number of prisoners who had been smashed and the number of prisoners who died of illness. Is indeed what appears in the document that I had just provided to you. I apologize, but I don't believe that there is an English translation of this document.
Monsieur le témoin.
Witness, first of all, on the page that I pointed out to you, can you tell us if the headings changed? And if instead of mentioning released prisoners, the headings mention executed prisoners, and there is also another column for the prisoners who died of illness.
I see this document, Your Honor, the document that you have just mentioned. I found it and I see it now. I agree with you, Your Honor, in relation to the format. The column, there is a column saying died from illness, and another column is smash. And let me make the point that on that day, the day that the list of prisoners was drawn up, there was one individual died from illness and no newcomers at 21. And there was another individual died because of torture.
Fine. Thank you. Can you give us the date of this list? Because I forgot to jot it down. Witness, you have my document in your hands, so I cannot read it any longer. So could you please provide me with the date of of this list.
The date on this list is 23rd of February 1977.
Merci.
Thank you. I would like to specify that on the case file we have 12 documents that meet this format, and these 12 documents, of course, correspond to different days during the period extending from 8 January 1977 to 29 March 1977. I counted the number of prisoners, and it appears that during this period 201 prisoners entered S21 and 154 either died of illness or were executed. And the highest amount is 1,120 prisoners on 29 March 1977. And we can see this figure again in document E3/9966. So now let's move on to another category of daily lists, daily checklists of prisoners. This is the list that was already presented to you by the co-prosecutor, I believe. I'm going to give you a copy of it. Can we please provide to the witness document E3/9970? This is document with year ends 0101 2237 in Khmer, and document was created on 8 May 1977.
Je précise.
I'd like to specify that on the case file there are 72 documents that are formatted in the same way. And I drew up a table that recapitulates all of the documents formatted in this way for the period extending from 6 May 1977 to 31 December 1977. And in total, "70 days are covered out of a period that's much longer." So, witness, I believe that you already have seen this kind of document. Do you have any comments to make? Have you already seen this kind of document? Do you recognize the signatures? And what can you tell us about all of this?
Allow me to tell you about this document. When I was chief of S21, I did not pay attention on the list. After I woke up, I would read the list of number of prisoners, so that I could make annotations and report to the upper echelon. Based on this document reflects the situation at S21 about the removal of prisoners and about how many prisoners remained on one particular day. And this document also tells the origin of the prisoners who were sent into S-21. And in relation to annotation below, 76 was withdrawn or removed. 75 was smashed, and 1 died of illness. And Kate Chow, alias Syme, the chief of Office K1, the guard unit. The condition of the disease, first he got pain in his chest, and he was fatigued and had difficulty in breathing. And after 3 hours, the condition became worse. He was treated for 1 hour, and after that he died of illness. And you could see the signature was put on the document. So it is true that Kate Chow, alias Syme, was arrested. He was the chief of defense unit of the part of Angka. So let me emphasize that this is really the document of S-21. President, it is now time for break, Judge. So the chamber will take a short break from now until 3 p.m. Court officer, please assist the witness during the break time in the waiting room, and please invite him back into the courtroom at 3 p.m. The court is now in recess.